You're watching Global Trade This Week with Pete Mento and Doug Draper.
And today, Global Trade This Week, coming to you live. I am in a hotel room out in Fresno, California. Pete, my co-host, out on the left coast. No, wait, that's where I am. Out in New Hampshire and ready to rock and roll with the Browns cap and some amazing artwork over his right shoulder. Pete, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm struggling this morning, buddy. I got up today to get the show rolling, and my computer wasn't working. And it's one of these things where, like, if I got in my Jeep and something wasn't working, I would have all the steps of, like, okay, this isn't working. Here's the first thing that I check, and here's what I do, and this is what I would do to resolve it. Like, I understand the systems inside of an internal combustion engine, or like how the radio's not working. Like, I would understand, Doug, what I should be doing. But when a computer's not working, it's like I'm Og the caveman. I'm not prepared so and it's not like my laptop's not working. The laptop's working, but all my peripherals that I have, like my nice big beautiful screen that I bought myself and my nice camera, none of that is working today. So fire, no work. So I'm eating cold meat today. And I was late getting the show started, so I apologize, Doug.
No, that's all right, Pete. And we always joke about our audience and our pre-show banter back and forth. The conversations that the three of us have are comical, to say the least. We should do an outtake show sometime. KB should just press the record button while we're in those conversations, and then we would be blacklisted pretty much from every show that we'd ever put on. So
we'd have no customers. Do you like the B-reels, in some of the movies where they show all the bloopers and everything? I love them. I love that in the credit scenes. I think those are great.
Always at the end. So, all right, man. Excuse me. Let's get this party started on a early day, early week. Let her rip.
Yeah, I have to refer to my notes in order to do this one right today, buddy. So I follow a lot of differing topics, and because they all have to do with trade, a lot of times, Doug, they'll intersect. So over the weekend, I follow a guy on Twitter who's fascinating. He's the car sales guy, relatively new account. Over COVID, he got a lot of followers. So as you would imagine, car sales guy got a lot of followers. He is anonymous. He apparently is a high performing car salesman somewhere in the United States. He won't even say what part of the country he is in. But he does admit that he is he's educated in finance for whatever that means. But he makes a very good living selling cars. So he puts up a lot of interesting facts that he gets from various parts of his industry that he does, most people wouldn't know about. So over the weekend, he gave us this little dandy, Doug, and I shared it on LinkedIn. But I'm going to give you some of the juicy bits that I saved for this show. Right now, there are less than 3,000 new cars in America for sale under $20,000. And I struggled to think how old I was when I bought my first car that cost more than $20,000. And Doug, this is no word of a lie. I was at least 30. I might have been 35 when I bought my first car that cost more than $20,000. And then the second half of it was, and I mentioned this on LinkedIn, back in 1986, when I first started driving, you could have bought 5 Yugos for $20,000. You'd probably need that many for parts for the other, 4 other Yugos for the parts for the one you intended to drive. Fun fact, the Yugo factory was destroyed by NATO by accident on a bombing run. So even if you wanted a Yugo today, you couldn't get one. But then 15% of drivers today who bought a car in the last quarter of 2022, so we just got those numbers, are paying at least $1,000 at least $1,000 a month for their new car. And about 30% of American drivers who are driving a new car are paying between $800 and $999 a month for their new car. And he credits the average rate Q4 October, December 2022, which were the newest numbers that we had to go for. So for near prime, which are a significant number of people, so credit scores between 601 and 666, a new car interest rate now is at 8.12%, and a used car interest rate is at 12.08. Prime, which is at 661 to 780 for a credit score, new car at 5.8. Used cars at 7.83. Super prime, which very few people walk into a car dealership with, 781 to a perfect credit score of 850, 4.7 for a new car, 5.9. Now, if you've got crappy credit rating, deep subprime, 13.4 for a new car, 20.6 for a used car. And right now, to find a deep subprime mortgage, you're more likely to find a Yugo than to find a car loan at those rates. This has a lot to do with two things we talk about on the show often. One is inflation. Just cars are very expensive, buddy, because all the things that go into those cars have gotten so expensive. And second is the supply chain of building those cars and car companies knowingly limiting the number of cars that they're putting out there in order to decrease inventory, because keeping inventory is expensive, which when we talk to people who are not in our industry, they have a hard time grasping that. You're basically putting money on a shelf that you've already spent. And so putting money on that shelf that you've already spent, waiting for someone to buy it, is expensive for producers of inventory. So you don't want to extend things that you may have created on a credit term if you don't have to. Mm-hmm. And that's a very, very difficult thing for folks to understand. With regards to inflation, another little piece of fun data I wanted to share with people is just how far inflation has gone. Now, these numbers are as of Friday. The highest inflation rate in the world still remains at Venezuela at 156%, where it's common to see banknotes in the street as litter. So if you want to have some fun, Keenan, you can go on the Googles or Twitter right now, and it's very easy to find Argentinian and Venezuelan currency as litter in the street, like newspaper. Turkey at 55%, and now Poland at 18%. Now, the United States, of course, everyone knows is at around 6%, 6 to 6.1. That's the government's numbers to us. And we all know how I feel, Doug, about the government's numbers. But we discount a lot of other countries between 6% and Venezuela's 156%. The UK is at 10.4%. And that's pretty terrifying, particularly when you see where the pound is at. Germany at 8.7, Mexico at 7.6, and buddy, Australia at 7.4. But at the lower end of the scale, you have our very good friends in Canada at 5.2%. Shout out to my headquarters in Montreal, Quebec. And of course, the last two, which I found were fascinating, was Saudi Arabia at 3%. It's amazing when you have all that gold and oil and cash. And lastly, China at 1%. Why? That's because they're communists and they believe in price controls. So when you centrally control the costs of practically everything, it's easy to not have inflation. So when your child comes home from college at spring break and says, well, inflation in China is at 1%, you can say to them, well, everything in China, pretty much the price of it is controlled by the state. So of course it is. Now go upstairs and clean out the cat box. It's fascinating, Doug. I bet if we went and looked across other products that were so dependent on the supply chain, we would find similar constraints on availability. Everything from laptops, honestly, things like high-end technology, high-end consumer electronics, certain types of medical devices, anything, honestly, that you don't want to have that expensive inventory on the shelf if you don't need it. Certainly expensive pharmaceuticals, Doug. So this has a lot to do with inflation. It has a lot to do with the cost of inventory sitting on a shelf. It's very much a supply chain issue. But damn it, Doug, what is it?
Well, a couple of things on that comment. One, if any college student comes back and understands the concept of inflation in China, then I'm going to hand over my taxes and let them take care of that for me. That's at least
they're going to comment on it, but I don't know if they're going to understand it. How about that?
Maybe that's true. And the other flip side of that, with some personal experience, is insurance rates on cars, because the value of a car is so gosh darn expensive, have skyrocketed. And my personal experience with that is my daughter, I have a sidebar story on that in a second, just bought her first car on her own. I'm very proud of her for a variety of reasons, and I'll tell you a quick story. But so I went to our insurance guy and threw the car on there, and oh my God. So 4 cars. We have 4 cars in our family now, 4 drivers. We're going to change that pretty dramatically. But I was sitting there just raise the, raise this,
deductible.
Lower this. I was adjusting my car insurance like crazy because it's blown up. And my insurance agent said, it's simply the fact that you have $80,000, $100,000 cars that are zipping around. And if they crash and break, it's not cheap to fix them. So the insurance piece of it, I think, is another piece. So those are the 2 things. So here's a quick story. The beauty of this show, Pete, is we can go in any direction we want. So my daughter bought her first car, bought it from a dealership in Kansas City. She went by herself. And I'm sure that the folks at the car dealership were salivating when a 20-year-old girl comes in there to try to buy her first car. Long story short, they tried to sell her the undercoating, blah, blah, blah. And her number, she said, Dad, my number is $14,999, 15 grand. Back and forth, brought it back down. She stood up and said, I cannot afford to pay more than 15 grand all in, and walked out. Yeah. She got in the car she was borrowing, turned on the key, started pulling away, and they ran out to try to grab her and said, I think we can make it work. Please come back in. And she got her car for $14,999. And she said, Dad, I've never felt better about being an adult as I did right now. So, anyway, it was crazy. I'm so proud of her for doing that. But anyway, the point of that story on the used cars is that the insurance rates are going up as well, because the things are so gosh darn expensive.
That's awesome. Well, first of all, good for your daughter. Yeah. You raised a winner, Doug. There are very few feelings that and second of all, that dealership still got something over on her because they're, but hey, any negotiation you walk away feeling like you won is a win, because I don't, you want both parties to feel like they came away feeling good. That's how it's supposed to feel. And if the, one side of the consumer feels like they got a good deal and the person on the other side feels a good deal, then great. But man, and the inflation affects everything. And when it affects something that's insured, air cargo, ocean cargo, over the road, intermodal, it's going to affect insurance rates. And that's going to end up messing with our industry. What's terrifying, Doug, is the number of our colleagues, customers, consumers who still look at insurance coverage and go, nah, I'm not going to insure it. Nah, I'll take my chances. If it breaks, you guys are just going to fix it anyway. No, we're not. We're not. Well, then I'll sue you. Good luck, because the law is absolutely on our side on this one. Get insurance. It is so affordable. It's not even affordable. It's below I don't even know what a word below affordable is. It's like ridiculously affordable. And you have a responsibility to your company to get it. So just God, insure your cargo. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Doug, what do you got for us? What's your first topic, buddy?
All right. Well, this
I know what your first topic is. Doug, when you sent this to me, I told you I was speechless. I didn't even know what to write back. So I'm glad I'm sitting down and I'm comfortable. So hold on. I want to take a drink before you do this. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this one started.
I'm ready.
Started as a topic, and then I kind of expanded it and took it out. So please lean in more if you don't mind. Drones. One of my favorite topics, drones. Yes. Yeah. So, but I'm going to change my tone for a couple reasons. Number one is there was an article about how drones are becoming more popular in warehouses to perform mundane work, primarily counting inventories. That's my world. That's my jam. So I totally get that, and it's becoming. The price is still pretty high, but it's coming down like anything else, just like flat screen TVs back in the day. But the efficiencies that you can gain for the mundane work that you have to do to run a successful warehouse operation.
Say it.
These drones, the application of a drone in a warehouse has value. How about that?
Oh, there it is. There it is. There, mark it down, people. March 27th, 2020. It only took them like 4 years. Doug actually said it. Oh, wow.
So let me clarify that. Drones making deliveries are still stupid. Drones that have decent applications do have value. And I think one of them is going to continue to be in the warehouse in a closed environment that can improve accuracy, efficiency, and eliminate humans, which ultimately get tired, delayed, make errors, the whole 9 yards. So I think we're going to see automation in the drones in warehouses increase. But the reason, so here's the expanded version, Pete, which is going to go away from drones. So the company that drew attention to this article was a company that invested into this drone company, which is Maersk. And that got me thinking about a term that you and I use time and again, which is owning the rails. And primarily we've spoken about North American companies. And I say North American because we're getting into the rail merger that we spoke about a couple of weeks ago. Anyway, Maersk, they own the boats. They've invested in aircraft. They've invested in 3PL e-com services. Now they're investing in technology and peripherals that are supporting some of the services that they provide. And the last thing I can remember on that, Pete, is Amazon, Jesus, probably a decade ago now, bought Kiva, which was the little robotic for their order picking services. And that likened to what's going on at Maersk. And so you know this because you're in the industry, and I think we're going to talk about it here in a bit, but do not sleep on Maersk. They separated, they broke their alliances with MSC. We've spoken about that. And I think that they have a pretty targeted and focused strategy. And you keep look at what Maersk is doing and will continue to do. And I think that will help you understand the definition of what a global logistics provider is all about. So that's the bigger picture here, is that Maersk is starting to own the international rails with air, ocean. I'm not sure they're going to get into rail, but I was blown away when I was traveling in New Jersey last week for a quick day, and I was blown away at the number of e-commerce locations they have across the country and the companies that they've purchased that are focused on that. So drones have application within a building. I will admit that drones still have no application and are stupid making deliveries to commerce. But Maersk, don't sleep on Maersk. It's kind of like the NC2A tournament when you say don't sleep on this team who's a 7 or 8 seed. But anyway, the story went from drones to owning the rails. So that's my take.
First of all, basketball is still a sport for men who can't skate. So I just want to make sure that I point that out. I don't care about the NCAA tournament. I only care if your team is in it, Doug, because it gives me something to root for. That's about it.
And it's not.
Second of all, I know. I paid attention, and they didn't make it. Second of all, Doug, you said it. You said the words. You made it matter to me. This is such a beautiful day for me. I might need to go lay down after the show. It was just so emotionally charged to see you make yourself vulnerable to myself and the audience and admit you were wrong.
Well, hold on.
No, Doug, you can't walk it back. You can't walk it back. It's like we went on a date and you finally told me you loved me. Okay. It's out there now. You have to hold my hand when we go to the mall. It's real. Okay. It's real. You have to give me a promise ring. This is a real relationship now. Okay.
Yeah.
You think drones work. Just say it.
No.
It's okay.
No. You didn't hear me when I clearly used the word stupid when I defined drone delivery services, right? Drones in a warehouse. I get it. I think there's value there, but I'm not walking anything back because I didn't go all the way in. I told you that I strongly like you. I didn't tell you that I love you.
No, I'm sorry. I heard what I heard. I heard what I heard. Next, the idea of local applications proving their worth and then using that to walk it back is very important. That's how most technology ends up finding a foothold. So we'll see what goes on from there. Yeah. It takes a lot of money to do that. Maersk has a lot of money, which goes to your last point. As we come back from this just financial free-for-all that was the COVID pandemic, where consumers and logistics companies were like, hey, let's all throw money around like it's 1997 again. Like, it was just awesome for everyone. They're gonna start to be more pointed and more strategic with spend. Every company is. It has been incredible to watch Maersk in particular really hone in and focus on short-term and long-term goals and see how they're both aligning, which has been interesting to watch. I still contend, Doug, that the most fantastical thing to watch is going to be the rising and the leveling off of e-commerce juggernauts. All Amazon is a supply chain company. All it is, in essence, is a final mile 3PL that happens to have a platform. And one of these companies is going to figure out how to market a platform. It's going to be FedEx and or UPS. It's going to be Maersk. Maersk is going to buy a failing e-commerce platform, and there's going to be one. One of these e-commerce platforms that's done quite well for itself is going to find itself in a financial position where either it can't continue to grow or it fails financially, and someone's going to buy it for pennies on the dollar. And now they're going to find themselves with a fully formed, mature e-commerce platform, but they've got the infrastructure. And they're going to be able to compete with an Amazon. Yeah. Now we're talking because they can do all kinds of things to manipulate transportation, and they can do it better. And they are going to get in the cage and they are going to fuck shit up, pal. There's no other way to put it. And when that happens, they can pick a region of the world that Amazon's not good at and out Amazon. And it's going to be a bloodbath because now they're going to have real competition. So Amazon's going to have to get better at things that they're not going to be able to get better at. And there are things: marketing, dealing with vendors, handling trade finance. So they're all going to, from the outside looking in, for me, because I'm a diehard spectator of the sport of e-commerce, I'm just going to sit back, with my low calorie Weight Watchers popcorn. And I'm just going to watch all this, and take notes, and just, it's going to be awesome. Yeah, Doug, it's going to be a hell of a time to be alive, pal.
Yeah. Well, it's always a hell. I'm going to start off with fantastical because I heard you use that word. I don't know if that's a real word or not. But
it is.
Fantastical can pretty much describe halftime, which is the part of the show that we're about to enter into. It is
paid for by our fantasticals.
Brought to us by our friends at Cap Logistics. Yeah. Yeah,
we're fantastical.
My internet out here in Fresno, is a little spotty. So halftime, Cap Logistics, transportation logistics, caplogistics.com. That's it. That's all I got on that one. So let's run into halftime. You want to go first, or you want me to go first on this one?
Oh, yeah. Well, now this is where Keenan wishes that he was on, because I'm going to talk about Bitcoin. See, you hate drones. I hate Bitcoin, and I still hate it, and I get to still hate it. Now, though, I get to talk about it because I learned something. I've been reading a lot about how Bitcoin is becoming both a hedge and a harbor of refuge for people who are concerned about both inflation, but they're really concerned about banking meltdowns. So we talked last week about the banking fears around the world and fear of a contagion. don't worry about it, guys. We're just going to take a few weeks off to stop the spread. That was a joke. The world is looking at Bitcoin as a possible place of refuge. I started looking at who holds on to Bitcoin. So because I don't trust it. I still think that it's a major league government-led operation, and you're never going to change my mind on it. Somebody had to have the money and the institutional awareness and the computing power to get this started when they did. It's way too big of an idea for it to have been done by individuals. So here's a fun fact. Who are the largest holders of Bitcoin? Do you know who number 7 is, Doug?
Are we doing a countdown, or are you just throwing out number 7?
Oh, I could give you who the largest are. So
here, here's my guess. Somewhere in the top 5, the Van Winklevoss brothers.
Winklevoss is number 6.
Okay. Yep. That's
number 5 is MicroStrategy. Number 4 is Binance. Number 3 is Grayscale. Number 2 is the founder of this concept, Satoshi Nakamoto. Mm-hmm. The number 1 holder of circulating Bitcoin is Coinbase, 7th largest holder. The 7th largest holder is the U.S. government.
Wow.
The 7th largest holder of the U.S. government has acquired these through seizure and criminal cases, including the Silk Road marketplace, the 2016 hack of cryptocurrency by Bitfinex, and a case involving James Zhang. And they're about to have enough that they may actually overcome the Winklevoss twins because of a number of illegal cases that they're currently trying and that they have pursued that will probably catapult them past the Winklevoss twins. So because they have not been combined into the federal government's wallet. Now, I don't know if it matters, because I think without all the pertinent information, I don't know if there's anything they can really do with all of it. But they have billions and billions of dollars in Bitcoin. The Chinese government apparently keeps theirs diasporically. They don't consolidate all of theirs into one coin. I would love to know how much the Chinese government has. I would love to know. But again, I think this is a massive, and I'm putting on my tinfoil hat, baby. It is a massive, massive psyop. I think it's a huge, enormous conspiracy that was done by some government or governments in order to either launder money or to turn some digital currency into a conversion for hard currency. It'd be great if it was like North Korea or China. I mean, what better way to turn a completely worthless idea into hard currency that can be used to help pump up your military? I don't buy it. Now, on the backside of that, it has become very popular again by people who are worried about a full-blown global financial crisis and don't trust their money in a bank and are worried about a bank run, because this is a bank that you own the bank. I mean, you literally own the safety and security. It's in your wallet. It's in your digital wallet. So there are a lot of people who wouldn't have touched Bitcoin with a 500-foot digital pole who now have money in it that never did, or are reinvesting in it that had before. So it's been fascinating to watch. Still think it's total humbug.
I was about to say, I'm glad you ended with that to keep your streak alive, but it sure sounded like you were promoting Bitcoin in those last 45 seconds.
Trash.
Well, Pete, my halftime is a little bit more uplifting, because what's happening on Thursday, America's pastime is back.
Woohoo!
The Major League Baseball season kicks off on, I guess that's March 30th. I was trying to figure out what was the very, very first game that's queued up. I don't know what it is. We'll put it, Keenan will find that out. But the one thing this year, Pete, is they're trying to speed up the game. They're trying to do some different things so the younger generation just doesn't walk away. And so I'm pulling this up so I don't say these incorrectly. But Thursday's opening day, as I said. So trying to pick up the speed of the game so people aren't just walking away. Because when I go to Coors Field, I roll in about the second inning, go drink some beers, and then I'm out of there at 5.5, 6. So anyway, there's a pitching clock, right? So there's no loafing around or screwing around on the mound. So it's 15 seconds to get your act together on the mound if there's nobody on base. And I think there's 20 seconds. Maybe it's 8 seconds. No, it's 15 seconds. Nobody on base, 20 seconds if they're on base. And then the batter, they can't step out of the batter's box once they can, but they got 8 seconds to get their act together in there too. So it'll be interesting to see who is, who's got the stopwatch on this thing. The defensive shifts a little bit. I'm not a baseball guy big time, but I know that there's the shifts when you have left-handed and right-handed batters. They're eliminating that. So you can't have a good defensive play based on the tendencies of the batter. This one is interesting, Pete. Bigger bases used to be 15 inches square. Now it's 18 inches square. And the key thing there is square. So if you look at the surface area that thing's going to take up, it's pretty significant. And the whole idea is more stolen bases move people around the horn, which means they're going to be in positions of scoring. And then this one I didn't understand, limiting mound disengagements. So I don't know if that's just people pissed about something or whatever that is, but they're going to limit it. And limit's pretty vague. So I don't know if that means it goes from 5 minutes to 2 minutes or whatever. But it's going to increase anger. It's going to increase debate. And all around, that's good for baseball. So I think there's going to be a lot of stories about Major League Baseball this year. There's going to be a lot of feedback, and it should be interesting. I'm not a big baseball guy, but I'm going to be going to more games this year, which is exactly what they want to happen. So I don't know if you've heard about all these changes, Pete, or what your take is on them.
So Doug, I'm a baseball obsessed American. I have been my whole life. My father is from Boston. I spent the formative years of my life in Texas, but as a Red Sox fan, and I was miserable in 2004. I am a season ticket holder. I sell most of my tickets. I'd never go to games. But with all that being said, I'll start from the very beginning. The idea of having a clock, some people are excited about it, and I am to a degree, but I'm also concerned. So there was a pretty ugly injury that happened in spring training to Justin Turner of the Boston Red Sox. If you want to start your day with a pretty gross image, they show his face immediately after he got it stitched up. Because of the speed of what's going on, some pitchers are a little rushed. And the Major League Baseball Players Association was worried about this. And sure enough, someone got hit in the face. So he got his upper lip basically ripped off, but he'll be back and ready to play. These guys are pretty tough. But yeah, there's a lot of, farting around that goes on, and enough. So hopefully this player safety gets caught up in that. But I agree with you, Doug. These guys spitting and picking their nose and other parts of their bodies, we can get rid of that. And let's get back to 2.5 hour games. Yeah. The stealing thing, I'm so excited for. I loved it when Ricky was going 90 feet. I love it when guys attempt to steal bases. I was a catcher. I love it when a catcher tags somebody out. So the idea that there's going to be more attempts, because that 3 inches matters so much, because guys are going to try, and those catchers are going to have less time to decide to make the throw. It's going to make a big difference, and it is going to get more people out. That's going to be great. The shift, I hate the shift, but then I love the shift. But I'm glad it's gone. The problem is again, freaking Red Sox, they played around with the rules and they found a way to put a shift in over spring break. It's not the same kind, and it showed to be somewhat effective. So we'll see what happens there. But mound engagement, that's when a pitcher and a catcher and the rest of the team walks up to the mound to talk to the pitchers hey, man, there's a great scene in Bull Durham when they're they show what they're talking about. What's a great gift to give somebody for a wedding if you don't know the groom? I always find candlesticks, they're just basically looking for time to get somebody warmed up or whatever. So the idea here is it just slows down the game enough, right? What can we do to get this moving? Because games were turning into these 4-hour affairs. And as much as I love going to baseball games, drinking beer, eating peanuts and watching stuff, we have to find a way to make it more TV friendly, make it a place that people do want to go. And yeah, kids want to watch UFC fights. They want to watch football. They love watching basketball again. And why? Because basketball has turned into a time limited affair, a lot more action, a lot more scoring, 3 points constantly. They want to see offense. So let's give it to them. And I'm looking forward to the season of my absolute trash baseball team sucking the entire season, as it should be. They're the Red Sox.
Right. Well, that was halftime. Brought to you by Cap Logistics.
Yeah,
we're on the back half.
Buddy.
We're on the. I can't think of a baseball analogy. We're on the other side of
we're
the seventh inning stretch.
Seventh inning. Yeah, we're in the seventh inning, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm pretty fired up to talk about this one. So do you remember the game you play with, like, I don't know, with your buddies, or you have your hands like this and they'd have their hands like that, and like you try to smack them on top of their hands, and if they flinched, you got to punch them in the shoulder or whatever? Or were you not a bunch of uneducated idiots like my friends and I?
No, but Wichita, Kansas, you kidding me? We love to punch people.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, my friends and I were morons. So we would sit there, and it was something to do on the way to baseball games or whatever. You'd like sit there with your hands like this, and you try to smack each other. Oh, you flinch and you punch each other. It's like, oh, well, forgive me for not wanting to feel pain, but you couldn't wait to like punch your buddy. And then it was their turn, that's what negotiating freight rates are like now. It's like, okay, wow, this is a great rate. Ningbo to West Coast US, $890. Holy crap. I get 10 free days. This is amazing, right? Lock us in. And then a week later, it's like 820. Jeez, like you get so mad because you flinched, and then, or someone says to you, looks like the president's going to get involved in West Coast negotiations. We might want to wait on those East Coast rates. I don't know. I think they're going to start going down. The next week, they start going up again because someone heard something, and you get all angry. It's like that Lucy pulling the football on you with Charlie Brown trying to kick it. It really has. And we said it, I think it was last week, right? Chaos in the marketplaces. It's actually kind of good for our marketplace, because that assumption that there's stability is actually what forwarders want. It's what NVOs want. It is not what carriers want. And it's actually not good for people who are buying it, believe it or not, because you want to take advantage of the marketplace. So going back to having 60% contract, 40% spot, it gives you a chance to play those opportunities in the marketplace. So we should all, at this point, as consumers of freight, get back to having a portion of what you're going to consume being bought on the spot. And that's really where that was all going to. Yeah. Get people ready to think they're going to flinch again, pal.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember how many shows ago, but it was almost like a day trader down there in the pits, when they're out there doing it. But yeah, the days of, hey, I'm a great one-time negotiator because for this calendar year, I was successful in negotiating this, right? Well, this doesn't exist anymore because it is so fluid. And just like you said, 60-40 split, 50-50, whatever it might be, it is a ongoing day-to-day transactional based business. And there is benefit if you know how to work it and you really understand the markets and the ebbs and flows of what's going on a port by port basis. You can be successful and you can be a hero within your organization. But if you think you're going to go out there and sign one contract for 1 year and go pat yourself on the back and go show your CFO how much money you've saved them, then you are going to get burned, and you don't understand the ocean industry in 2023. So it's a great analogy with the flinching, and I love it. And it's a different world out there. And I was trying to think, Pete, and I can't. I love Wolf of Wall Street. What was the guy's name? Belfort. Gordon.
Yeah.
What? Gordon? Oh,
no,
see,
it was,
you and I pride ourselves on knowing that stuff. Anyway, Belfort, we'll think of it in a minute. But the way he manipulated things and made it beneficial for him, that's the kind of guy you need on your team to go out and negotiate these things nowadays.
Jordan
Belfort. Yep.
Jordan Belfort, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Pete, my last topic kind of goes on the ocean freight as well. It's the ocean. It's related to the Ocean Shipping Reform Act of 2022, which, if I won't go into the nuances of it, but it was a knee-jerk reaction when it was a carrier market, when it was a seller's market. Everybody was up in arms about this charge and that charge, and how can they do it, and blah blah blah. And so the government said, "Well, we'll try to help out and try to regulate an industry that has nothing to do with ownership or control in the United States." So there's a rule that's going into effect in April, and it's basically related to having carriers be financially responsible or penalized for unethical, illegal charges that may appear on your invoice. So the old rule is that you could be liable with a civil penalty, right? Could be, maybe, liable. Like what does all that mean, right? It's pretty ambiguous. The new rule, in addition to all that, basically says in addition to or in lieu of a penalty, the ocean freight's liable for a refund. So that's all good and well, but you know what? Let's ask for permission and or ask for forgiveness, not permission. So you know what, Pete? I just jacked an extra $200 on your ocean freight, and if you recognize it or ask for a refund, all right, I'll refund you. So 10, 15% of those fees are going to be refundable. But is that really a deterrent for bad behavior? I don't know. And I guess if you ask the ocean carriers, are they exhibiting or engaging in bad behavior? Yeah, they may or may not even agree with that in the first place. So the bottom line is the steamship lines still control the narrative, even though it's a spot market that you just said. It ebbs and flows, and it goes up and down, port to port, season to season. So I don't know if a reform act is going to really make any impact or changes. And Pete, I'm going to charge you the $200 again, and next week I'm going to charge you an extra 75, and the next week whatever it may be, and maybe you'll catch it. And I'm not saying steamship lines are intentionally doing this or bad actors to any stretch, but it just doesn't have a lot of teeth. It's hard to validate. It's an American entity that is doing the validation. And I just don't think it's a big enough deterrent to have any general impact, other than some senators and politicians can raise their hand and say, look at all these cool things we're doing to help the U.S. importer market. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting that there's some teeth, quote unquote. They're going to be implemented in April. I don't know how much it's really going to affect what we're talking about. I don't think a whole lot. And it's definitely not a deterrent for managing the flow of commerce and costing as it comes into America. So anyway, it's nice to know nothing's really going to happen with it, in my opinion. And on we go.
Doug, were you ever a Seinfeld guy? Did you watch Seinfeld?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I used to have to record it because Thursday nights I was almost always either doing spots or on the road or, trying to find some place to get a spot for an open mic. But I would always come home and I could never sleep because I was always jacked up, Be like 1, 2 in the morning. And I would always pray that it was an episode that had Jackie in it. Do you remember Kramer's attorney, Jackie?
Yeah.
And he would look, and Kramer would tell him what egregious assault had happened to him. And there was always something really like silly. And Jackie would look at him and say, I am shocked and chagrined. Like, I cannot believe, Kramer, I am shocked and chagrined this has happened to you. And I remember in the final episode of Seinfeld, Jackie even said, I am shocked and chagrined. Doug, as I sit here clutching my pearls, I'm shocked and chagrined. I can't believe. I can't even conceive. It's unconscionable that the ocean carriers wouldn't be fined for this, that they would simply have to give the money back. I mean, what were the odds? The odds were 100.00%. That's what the odds were, Doug. I mean, what were we expecting? These are some of the most powerful companies on planet Earth. You and I know that. All the people that we work with in this industry know. I mean, ocean companies have got some stroke, man. Like, those guys can make it happen. If you need it, it's going on one of their boats, baby. And say what you will, and you can say a lot. During the pandemic, they were a necessary part of day-to-day operations on planet Earth. So we got to give them some credit. They do have some political capital to wield at the moment. I got a feeling they might have wielded it on this one. It's like, what do you want from us? Okay. Mm-hmm. We kept the earth spinning for you in the worst crisis of pretty much anyone's lifetime since World War II. Knock it off. Say what you will about it. You know, like Stalin said, the strong do what they will and the weak accept what they must. I'm just not shocked. I'd like to sit here and feign disgust, but you know, what I think is really scary is you're going to have a lot of freight forwarders who are suddenly breathing a sigh of relief because they were all terrified they were going to get caught up in this mess and end up getting sued. Mm-hmm. So that's probably where all this is. Maybe there's a little silver lining in it. But what stinks is what you just said. For months and months, people were getting whacked with millions of dollars, some companies, of D&D. And they felt that there was some sort of justice that might be played out here. Ain't no justice, baby. You know, yeah. This is forwarding, dude. There's no justice. There's just profits and losses. And, you know, you'll get yours next time. So speaking of next time, that's all the time we have for this week. We want to thank our incredible, incredible sponsor, Cap Logistics, for all that they do for us. We want to thank them for loaning us Keenan, who I think is it work release or parole? I can never keep those two straight. Mm-hmm. But he does an incredible job for us on the buttons and dials back there in his Fortress of Solitude in Denver, Colorado. I want to thank my co-host, Doug Draper, for always, knowing when he's wrong and admitting it here on the podcast. It takes a very strong, mature man to admit when he's wrong. And Doug did that today by admitting that drones do serve an important business purpose in the logistics industry. Doug, I don't know. I want to cry. I'm so proud right now.
See, you bring that up again on the close, so I cannot retort that, right? Yeah. I'll just let the show come to a peaceful end.
Yeah. Of course, we want to thank all of you, our listeners and our viewers. Everyone listens to this on a podcast. Those of you who watch it on any number of the video releases that it comes on. And for those of you who watch the video, we are available now in all podcast outlets. So please do give us a listen there when you're going to and fro. And we can't wait to see you all again for another episode of Global Trade this week. Thanks, Doug. See you next week.
Thanks, Pete.
Everybody.